Welcome to Surrender School.
I want to start with the mission statement, and the mission statement at Surrender School is at Surrender School, we recover. Our mission is to share 12-step and other supportive recovery solutions to those who want a healthy relationship with food. We're not an official 12-step meeting, but we do try to adhere to the spirit of the traditions. And I want to say too that those of you that are not like your deal is not food. We know we have a lot of people that food is not their deal. So all that happens is when we talk about food, you fill in the blank for alcohol or drugs or sex or whatever your deal is, whatever your problem is. And we think that it works. We've heard from other people that it works. We can do that. So anyway, I just want to encourage you to keep coming back. All right. Everything that we offer, we have workshops, Supercharge Your Recovery is this one, Sundays at 10:30. Related to that, we have office hours, Monday and Thursday at 8 a.m. Pacific, and Monday at 4 p.m., which I had to cancel last week because I ended up stuck somewhere. So I don't plan to cancel it in the future. So please hang in there if you can make it on Monday, 4 p.m. Pacific, which is 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And in Europe, probably way too late for you to come unless you're insomniac or something. Okay, and then also we have a Science of Step 1, which I'm going to talk a little bit more in detail here in a minute. We have a book study called The Alchemy of the Enneagram and Transforming Addiction. And we actually meet with the author, Michael Naylor. It's monthly on Mondays at 10:30 to noon. And the website has the dates on the very front page. It'll see what the dates are. The next one that he's doing is March 24th, and it is type 5, and the chapter that deals with type 5. So those of you who have a type 5 in your life or are a type 5, you'll want to come. We have reading rooms. The difference between a book study and a reading room is a book study, you read the book on your own, and then there's discussion kind of around the topic. In the reading rooms, we literally read the books together. So there is the Drop the Rock reading room, Wednesday at 3 o'clock Pacific. There's an AA 12 and 12 reading room on Tuesdays at 1:30. And an emotional sobriety, the 12 Insights for Emotional Sobriety by Ellen Berger. And that's Tuesday and Wednesday at 8 a.m. Pacific time. All right, a little bit deeper into Step 1 Science. We're nearly at the end. There are 2 sessions left, I think. Those have all been, they're recorded, and then there's like discussion and further information. So Linda T is the person who teaches this class, and the recordings are out there so anyone can take it. And I think it makes a huge impact on people's recovery. It just, at least for mine, and for those of the people that I know, understanding the science of all the chemicals and all the hormones that are happening as a result of ingesting your trigger foods. It's just one more layer of that. Oh, okay. And what I came to realize, and it really settled in, is I'm not broken. I'm working as designed, right? I could decide it's a shit design if I want to, but that's not in my control, right? The real idea is I'm working as designed. So when I ingest this stuff, all these chemicals and all this stuff happens. So at the very least, what happens then, I get to decide, right? I can say, I can ingest this and all this shit's going to happen. Am I willing to go through that? Sometimes I say, yeah, I'm willing to go through that. Okay, but at least I know. And the knowledge, there's power in knowledge. So that's good. All right.
Wait.
The other thing here is the first.
Can I interrupt just for a second?
Oh, please do. Yes, absolutely.
On March 22nd at 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Pacific time, I'm going to do a relapse workshop. So it's a 3-hour relapse workshop, and it's Relapse Through the Eyes of the Big Book. So that it is on the website now, but I haven't updated, so I didn't let Cher know. So, but I am going to be doing that. So thanks.
Excellent. So starting next week, that's what will be here instead of Science of Step 1, from the curtain. That's what will be here for that. Okay, good. Thank you, Linda, for that. And yeah, excellent. Okay, so we have something called First Friday Enneagram Exchange with Michael Naylor. So Michael Naylor and I, he's going to be covering the 3 zones within the 3 instincts. So he's covering the instincts very deeply. On February 7th, he covered self-pres zone 1. So on this coming Friday, March 7th, he'll cover zone 2 and 3, I think, and then he'll cover the others in the future. A lot to learn from the instincts, because the combination of our type and the instinct that we are really impacts us, which you'll learn over the next couple of weeks. So instincts are probably the thing I get the most questions on, and I don't know a lot about them, but I'm learning because I'm learning from Michael. Okay. All right, so here's some things that we offer. Consider taking experience, working, attending, taking the past workshops or book studies. They're out on the website. Lots of really good information out there. Consider experiencing the meditations by steps. We have about a 5-minute-ish meditation on each of the steps. So if you're working that step, especially if you're working with the sponsee or working with a sponsor, that's a really good thing to start the work that you're doing together with this meditation by step. Working through the steps alone or with a sponsor. Every year we do something about working the steps. Obviously, this year is a 52-week working the steps by type, which is probably the deepest study that we've done so far. And hopefully you guys are experiencing great things from it. And then also consider attending the in-person retreat in 2026 in Las Vegas. Very easy to get and relatively cheap to get to Vegas. So if you are interested in becoming part of the planning committee of that, please reach out to Joy and just let her know that you're interested. And when she starts with whoever is actually doing that, they start organizing that, which probably will be soon, she'll know to contact you that you're interested in that. All of this can be found on surrenderschool.org. So pretty much you want to live there. It is my homepage. Every time I go onto the web, I go first to surrenderschool.org to see if there's any changes or whatever. Okay. Also, consider being a volunteer, meaning you can be a co-host here. Lots of people so far today, thank you, have volunteered to be the leaders of the breakout rooms, which is very, very helpful to have that. I'm going to take a minute right now. I'm basically going to go to a white screen. I'm going to take a minute right now just to say there seems to be some interest in small group work. And I want to say we love the fact that there is an interest in that. So one advantage, if you let a bunch of fours get together, that's great. You probably do want to include some other types too, because you don't want to turn it into something where we all live in our old story because we're suffering from whatever. We really want kind of other perspectives in there as well. So I really want to encourage you, if there's somebody that they tell their story, they share whatever speaks to you, reach out to that person. That's one reason it's really cool on WhatsApp, because you can actually grab that person's contact information and speak specifically or text specifically with them, chat with them. So I want to encourage that a lot. We won't be organizing groups ourselves, the small groups, but all of you, any of you can organize a small group in whatever way you want to. And everybody just know that we do encourage that. One of the reasons that we encourage that, especially for people who aren't able to come and stay for the breakout rooms, is there is power in sharing the things that you're thinking. I mean, there's absolutely power in that. So we really want to encourage you to make sure if there's a week you can't make it, get with someone else and share what you wrote. Because sharing it, saying it out loud, there's a couple things that happen in your brain when you say it out loud. First of all, you're saying it, which hits a certain part of your brain, and you're hearing it, which hits another part of your brain. So there's a lot of brain activity when you share the experience that you have. So we want you to journal and we want you to share. Okay. If Surrender School has helped you, consider donating. And once again, on the website, there's a donate button, and you can use credit card or PayPal or whatever. So please consider doing that. Remember to join the WhatsApp group if you haven't done that already. You want to do that. You also may want to sign up for the daily Ennea Thought from EnneagramInstitute.com. All right. Okay, let's take a moment. Feel your breath going in and out, and feel your feet on the floor. Really feel your feet on the floor. The goal of this exercise is to be present. Not thinking about what happened this morning, not thinking about what's going to happen this afternoon, just be present. Okay, so together, let's say the simplified set-aside prayer. God, help me to set aside everything I think I know to leave space for what I have yet to learn. All right, the goal of this course is a personal journey. Our focus is to help you understand the relationship between your false self, or that ego structure that we've built because we're human, and your true self, and to treat yourself with unrelenting compassion because you are human. And once again, if there is if there is an underlined and if there is an underscore, like in a movie, there's this score that plays throughout everything. It is compassion. It is self-compassion, because all the work that we're doing, we have to be compassionate with ourselves or we run away. If you catch yourself wanting to not come back, it's probably because there's something in you that's being unkind to yourself. In general, we are not unkind. I mean, I say that in general. I'm an 8. Hello, there are days I'm unkind. And guess what I do? I make amends and I do better next time. No recrimination. I make amends and I do better next time. Okay, some things to keep in mind. This is working the steps by type. So obviously, take the test, know your type. If you don't know that, you need to get on that right away. Self-contempt stops spiritual growth. That's the reason growth. That's the reason that we talk about self-compassion, because if there's even just a smidgen of self-hatred that you're carrying around, it really does, it gets in the way of your spiritual growth. And once you can basically just say, oh, I'm wired that way, it doesn't mean we forgive ourselves for bad behaviors. That's why we're working the steps, because we want to get through that. But the idea is, I cannot feel contempt for myself. And if the language inside my head is this contemptuous language, then there's work that we need to do to basically set that aside, because our goal is spiritual growth. I've said this before, and I will say it over and over again, I'm sure. We work the steps, we work them, we do the work. And there's another path that's happening, which is our higher power changes us, right? We do the work, our higher power changes us, softens us, right? Helps us dissipate that ego structure. Okay, do the work and your recovery will be supercharged. We've seen this happen with, I'm sorry, everybody who's doing the work. And also, I want to say, remember, be kind. Be kind to yourself and be kind to one another if you're speaking with other people about this or whatever. Just even if, yeah, because we all are in different stages of recovery. So be kind. All right. The plan always is that we share a little bit, we cover a little bit of information, and then we go into the breakout rooms, share our experience, strength, and hope. Always read the question first. That's what's going to keep a group of people all the way to the end of the year, instead of randomly sharing about your week, which means people will be out of here very quickly. So we want to be sure that we read the question and then share on that. And in the main room, we want to come together. We'll come back together. And if you had something other than that, then go ahead and share on that in the main room. Okay. And once again, I bring this one up just because I want to say inquiry is what we're doing. Inquiry just means questions. So this idea that you have the kind of a description and then there's a specific question of the week. One of the things when I first just kind of glanced at the questions, they all kind of seem alike. When I'm actually answering them one at a time, they're very different. It gets completely different answers from stuff, which it amazed me too as I went through. I didn't come up with the questions, by the way. I don't claim any ownership of that. It was a group of lovely women who came up with the questions, and I'm just like blown away by them. Okay, so once again, we will see patterns. We see patterns as patterns. We see projections as projections. This will absolutely happen in steps 4 and 5. You will begin to see the pattern that is woven together to create that personality that you have always believed is you, and it isn't. There's a softer, gentler, true self, right? That is all the shining things that you wish you were, you actually are, because you wouldn't wish it if you weren't it, right? Okay, and the more you see those, the more that those patterns and those projections dissipate. And that's what we're working on. All right. So last week I covered this very quickly, and that is step 2 is came to believe in a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. And I just basically went over real quickly why step 2 might be difficult for your type. So if you gave this any thought, did this resonate with you? Could this be in your way? If you gave this any thought, that's what we're going to share on right now. So we'll do a little bit of shares right now if anybody wants to share on this. And let's go ahead. Anyone want to share on step 2 difficulty for your type? And I see your hand is up.
Yeah, I'm going to share on this. Actually, I had a special moment with you last week because I wasn't in a breakout room and we kind of had our own little session. And we talked about this and what strikes me, and I'm a type 9, so my why might 2 be difficult for me read delaying the work in hopes that came to believe will happen regardless of work. And just in changing that into my general personality is delaying the work in hopes that whatever it is, it will happen even if I don't do the work. And that is me. That is me. And that just so hit me, and realizing that that's what I do. And I am very grateful. And the more I learn about myself, I'm amazed that I have been able to be successful in recovery finally in my life. And I have great recovery, and I have a higher power, and I can deal with all that. But when program is great, life, got some stuff. And that's what I'm trying to learn here. But I just knew, and it's the same thing. I mean, Cher and I met, we're in this room while everyone was in the other room, and she says, well, share me your how you answered your question. And I said, I didn't do it. And that's when we got into this discussion. It's procrastination. It's burying my head in the sand. It'll happen even if I don't do anything. And here I am again today. I didn't do my question. I wrote it out just now on a piece of paper. I haven't answered it, but in the room, I will answer the best I can spontaneously. That seems to be at this point what works best for me. That anyway, love you all. So glad to be here, and I'm learning so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. And this is another reason what you're talking about, why even just one-on-one, even if it's not a group, if it's one-on-one, if there's somebody that's like, oh, yeah, they really resonate, because Lori said I didn't answer it. And I said, well, answer it now, right? So otherwise we'd have talked about something else. And she's like, oh, okay, right? So yeah, that's what, and some of it is that if they didn't have a chance, because people are busy. And this is the reason, by the way, we're so completely okay with people who come and go, that people who, right, April is super busy and then they come back in May. That's fine. And somebody reached out to me. I was talking to them the other day, and they said, oh, I'm so far behind. I said, just grab the question from this week. Just do question 4 of step 2, and you're caught up, because then you share on that and you move on. Because there's something in me that completely gets, and I didn't until very recently, that what is what is meant to be. What is. So it is that. You didn't get that done. Don't stress about it. Don't stop coming back because you didn't get the question done, right? What is. It's all good, right? Come back, answer if you can, answer the question of that week so that you can share part of it, and you'll be amazed. You'll be amazed, right? We have 4 questions. Well, we're going to have a lot of questions in step 4. There's 4 per week that you're going to answer. So there's a lot. Well, I say 4, it's not questions so much, but there's 4 things per week that you're going to do. Still not a lot of work, because Joy and Linda and company did like the vast majority of the work for you, which is really nice of them. But yeah, amazing stuff. Okay, I'm talking too much. Sorry. Okay, Linda, to you.
Thanks, Cher. Mine as a type 6 was suspicious of authority and Godward issues, and both of those things were true for me. And the biggest obstacle to my entire recovery was an inability to trust a higher power. I mean, no, I was like, I'm not going to trust you on this. I'm sorry, and it was, and it just, I would, because I didn't have a higher power I could trust, and I had such Godward issues, it was more like dabbling in program. You can't like really work a program without that aspect. And so for me, what you put forward as the obstacle for a type 6 for step 2 was right on. So thank you.
Thank you. And I want to say too, one of the things that happens is sometimes people misunderstand the phrase came to believe, and that means it takes time. It isn't like, bam, you believe. It feels like, bam, you believe, but that's like the famous people who say, yeah, it was an overnight success that took 10 years to get there, right? It's whatever time it takes, we come to believe, and then suddenly the trust is there. And that's when things start happening. Yeah, so it's amazing. Thank you, Linda, for that. Sarah, to you.
Hi, I'm Sarah. And Cheryl, I don't want to disagree, but I think you have a very nice face, and I appreciate it being on my screen. So
Thank you.
And so I'm a 2, and I read that it says resistant to insanity. My actions are not the problem. Make other people their HP. And I laugh because yes, when I first started coming to recovery, I was on the Reddit for, I think it was Al-Anon, and somebody had said on there that they had been addicted to, that their alcoholic was addicted to alcohol and they were addicted to their alcoholic. And when they said that, it totally changed everything for me, because I was at the time I was with a gambler and I was completely obsessed with him, and he was addicted to gambling and I was absolutely addicted to him. And then later I started to realize, okay, I had made him my higher power. He was absolutely my higher power. Everything he said went, like, I didn't really question him. Or if I did, it was kind of like, you know, that's a no-no. And so it was a very unhealthy dynamic. But I did have that kind of, we also had that weird power dynamic of where because he was gambling and I was like the enabler, like I was always blaming him for all of our problems too. And that was also very unhealthy because I wasn't really taking any, so I wasn't the problem. His problem was the gambling, you know. So it was a very interesting for me to kind of start coming to meetings and hearing people talk about like taking ownership for my part in whatever my part was, and then having to realize that I was addicted to what he was doing. I was obsessed with what he was doing. You know, if he would have let me put a tracker on his person, I would have. Like, that's like, I was so obsessed with what he was doing. And it was so unhealthy. And it was so, because I truly believed if he would get better being subjective, that my life would be fine. You know, because if he would get better, then that would mean he would see things exactly how I saw things, which wouldn't have happened anyway. But that's what I believe, you know, because I didn't have program. So I was very resistant. Well, when I first started coming to program, I was like at my rock bottom. So had they told me to like go out and like, you know, dye my hair green and like do whatever, I would have done, and because I was so desperate. But before that, I was very resistant to the idea of like that I was the problem. So anyway, I just wanted to share that. And I think for me too, everything that we do, I'm always like, yeah, that's me. So yeah, with
Awesome.
that.
Thank you, Sarah. So a couple of things. All of us come here on our knees because this isn't like the door you want to go through. It's not like, you know, door number 2 and you win a prize. No, I mean, we come because we're desperate, right? Which is awesome. I mean, it sounds not awesome. It sounds awful, but it's awesome. And then the other thing, I think I cannot wait for you to take steps 4 and 5 and so clearly see the patterns, which is what happens with all of us when we do it this way. So I'm super excited. I know I keep talking about step 4, and I've done so many step 4s in my life, right? And almost every one of them was, oh, I'm a horrible person and I'm beating myself up. And this one isn't that. This one is, oh my God, this is a pattern by type. I'm wired this way. I can still be horrified. Horrified's fine, right? But I'm not beating myself up, which is awesome. So thank you. Thank you so much, Sarah. Okay, Jasmine, to you.
I definitely resonated with my challenge for type 2. I want to love and rescue and either be a higher power or making other human beings my higher power, mainly my children. So with my oldest son, I found myself like wanting to love him to death. And I'm literally loving him to death. And he's like, Mom, you're killing me. Get back. I need space. Look, give me 50 feet. And I'm like, hey, what is wrong with this? What is wrong with this ungrateful little? It's not me and my stuff. He is ungrateful. He doesn't get it. Something wrong with him. So yeah, I definitely have that.
Thank you, Jasmine. And Lee, to you.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Lee, compulsive overeater in London, and I didn't come for a couple of weeks because I had some family issues, and it really took something for me to come back. And I think because of my personality type, I just want like the next thing. I was like, yeah, well, I've done this meeting now. I know the format, and when I start to know the format, I really struggle to come back and do something in the same format. So, first of all, I'm pleased to be here, and it really struck me the reason that step 2 might be difficult for me is that I like my own brand of insanity, and there really is something in that there's enough in the world to see, and I haven't seen it all yet, and I want to go and see it all, and I want to do the next exciting thing, and to actually pause, sit still, and connect to another world, like a power greater than me. And I've had to learn to, and I'm happy that I've learned to, because I've been in recovery for 3 years. I'm a 100-pounder and I was dying in the food, and I had no options, but it was only really because I was out of options, and all the days out and the seeking and the eating just were not helping. So I have learned to connect with power greater than myself and to accept that. But it's still a journey, and some days I'd just rather go out and have a day out. But yeah, I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you. And I want to say too, the gift of the spirit of the 7 is the ability to stay with the mundane, right? That's the gift of the spirit. The rest of us are like, I can stay with mundane. My life's boring. I'm always with mundane, right? But 7s are like, come on, let's get some excitement. So your ability to come back, yay, you came back, right? Because it's like, just because okay, I'm going to come back. Yeah. So glad you're here. Thank you, Lee. And Tamara, and then we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Go ahead, Tamara.
Your and about whatever will be. It just reminded me of my mom's favorite song, Que Sera Sera. So I was like, okay, here in Doris Day. But as far as sanity, the problem, it took yesterday. I was working with my sponsor, and it took it was like almost having to take a sledgehammer to my head to come to be able to see that it was me being a reactor and not an actor that was really my problems. It wasn't so much that the actions of the people in particular situations were right. It was how as me not accepting that I'm not in control. Their actions may be not the greatest, but I was responding with anger, blame, blaming them for how I was feeling about it. And if instead of choosing, which this a light kind of went off, I can actor set boundaries. I can express my expectation. I express that different than trying to help someone else know how they should be doing things in the world, even if this is a part of not, even if my way really is better. Anyway,
and you will to some degree always feel that way, Tim.
It's just that way. I mean, I can go over to the 8, right? So you can relate to me, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep. Thank you so
All
much.
right, thank you.
So okay. So I want to say too, on all of this, just thank you so much for those of you who share up front. I was debating, do I want to continue to do that? Because the pattern is this kind of loosens people up so that when we go into the breakout rooms, we're more likely to share easily. And that's really the reason that we're doing is it's a gradient that starts. So last week, I think the last couple of weeks, I think we haven't had shares, but today we did. So I'm a happy camper. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to sharing my screen, and we will move on here real quickly. Just a second. Okay. I'm assuming everybody can see my screen. And you see the full screen, I'm assuming. Okay. So, all right. So what I want to talk about now is something that I call accessible traits. I don't know if anyone else calls it that, but these are the character traits of each type that are available to the types that connect to them through the wings and arrows. So one of the things that happens inside, okay, and you can use these traits of your wings and arrows for growth. Actually, the truth is you will use them. You have used them. As you've worked your program, if you're working a 12-step program, you have already been using the traits of the wings and arrow because those are the ones that are accessible to you. So, right, so I'm an 8. I have the wings are always the ones beside you on the Enneagram wheel, right on the circle. All right, so that means I have a 7 and a 9 wing. The arrows are basically the arrows that go. So I have an arrow to a 2 and an arrow to a 5. And I know as I worked my program, right, I do think I became a kinder person, right? And noticed when I was unkind at the very least, right, I became a kinder person, which is a 2 thing. I also became very comfortable being alone, which is a 5 thing. not necessarily an 8 thing, but certainly a 5 thing. And then, of course, the 7 is kind of fun loving, and the 9 is seeking peace. And when I came to program, before program, I never sought peace. What? I don't even know what the hell is that. That wasn't even a consideration. Once I came here and I could see the people that were at peace, they were at peace with food, right? I mean, completely neutral about food. I'm like, wow. I mean, then it's like there's some part of me that sought that. When I first started learning the Enneagram, I'm like, well, 8s don't seek that, but 9s do. And I have a wing that is a 9. And so there is a part of me that just relishes peace, right? Now I've incorporated those things, and it's not me, by the way. It's just that I'm beginning to notice that I'm utilizing those traits. So that's the reason we talk about the traits. So I want to read a parable to you. If you were in the thing last time, you heard it again, but I'm going to go ahead and read it. Once upon a time, in a not so far away land, there was a kingdom of acorns, nestled at the foot of a grand old oak tree. Since the citizens of this kingdom were modern, fully westernized acorns, they went about their business with purposeful energy. And since they were midlife baby boomer acorns, they engaged in a lot of self-help courses. There were seminars called Getting All You Can Out of the Shell. There were woundedness and recovery groups for acorns who had been bruised in their original fall from the tree. There were spas for oiling and polishing those shells, and various cornucopia therapies to enhance longevity and well-being. One day, in the midst of the kingdom, there suddenly appeared a naughty little stranger, naughty, Knotty, naughty little stranger, apparently dropped out of the blue by a passing bird. He was capless and dirty, making an immediate negative impression on his fellow acorns. And crouched beneath the oak tree, he stammered out a wild tale. Pointing upward at the tree, he said, "We are that." Delusional thinking, obviously, the other acorns concluded, but one of them continued to engage him in conversation. "So tell us, how would we become that tree?" "Well," he said, pointing downward, "it has something to do with going into the ground and cracking open the shell." "Insane," they responded, "totally morbid. Why, we wouldn't even be acorns anymore." Okay, so the acorn becomes the tree, right? If you think about the acorn in its shell, is the ego structure, our personality, which we spend our whole life believing we are. And the tree is our true self, which grows stronger as we do the work. All right. So learning your Enneagram type, your dominant instinct, and so forth can help you choose actions. So you will use your accessible traits of the wings and arrows to continue to crack the shell. Because the real issue here is we believe that we are our personality. We think that is us, just like the little acorn thinks, right? All the acorns think that is us. But once that shell is cracked, and here's the news, guys, it's a spoiler alert, your shell's been cracked, right? You can't go back to this polished little acorn. It doesn't happen, right? My sponsor used to say, oh, once you're a pickle, you can't go back to a cucumber, right? You just can't, right? So the idea here is, all right, I'm on this path, continue on the path. That's the answer. Because what will happen is all those things that you wish for yourself, right? Deep inside, you want to be that person. You are that person. And I use this example for me. I used to try to be strong and courageous, right? That was like my driving force. It was the force behind my meanness to people. It was my force behind everything. Once I started studying the Enneagram, it's like, I don't have to try to be strong and courageous. I am strong and courageous. I am that, right? I am the oak tree. I mean, hopefully everybody's getting it, because I don't even know how to say it better than that. I am that. And as a result, I can relax into it. I don't have to, and some of the types are very forward pushing. The 8 is a forward pushing. And so it is natural for my personality to push into things, to try to become something, to try to do something like that, right? And other types are that as well. And this idea that what I do is relax into my true self. It's a completely different feeling than it is trying to be that, right? Okay. So if anybody wants to take a picture of this to share with someone else, I went ahead and put it on the screen. I'm going to give you a minute to do that if you want to. I think it's a sweet little parable. I do love the idea of they have recovery groups and they oil and polish it and stuff. It's like awesome. Okay, everybody good? All right, we'll move on. All right, we're going to go into our breakout room. Now, here's a change that I've done, and let me pull all the stuff up here. Okay. I now have the step and question of the week here for what we're going to share on. So you don't have to wonder when you get into the room and bite your nails and say, am I on the right question? You'll know. This week we are answering step 2, question 4. Now we're talking in essence about, because we're in the 3rd month, we're basically we'll be working toward, I guess, step 3. But on each of the months, okay, there's a specific pattern that we do. And so the 3rd week of the month, right, which was last week, I cover the step difficulty. And then the 4th week, we talk about, you know what I'm saying. Anyway, so the 4th question is tied to that sharing on the difficulty. So what will happen is your step 2, question 4 is in the first, you're going to share on it the 1st week of the next month, right? Because that question is, and so once again, we come in and we study a little bit, you get a question to answer, and then the next week we answer it. So this is the week that it feels a little off. So I will cover here what we're talking about today. And at the end of the session, I'm going to have a box just like that talks about, okay, what are you going to work on this coming week? And I think that will help clear things up just a little bit. I'm going to ask you to, not now, but when I get to that, I'm going to ask you to write it down, because I don't know about anybody else, but I don't remember jack shit. So, I mean, I'm like, who am I? Where am I? Anyway, I'm happy I remember when it's Sunday and I'm teaching this, but beyond that. Okay, so be kind to your room leader by following this rule, because the room leaders are lovely to volunteer to go into the breakout rooms and basically be the leaders of the breakout rooms. They're all stretching themselves because they know there's a possibility that they're going to have to say, I'm sorry, can you read your question? Because if you start your share without the question, we ask the leaders to do that, because we really, really want you to ask the question first, and then you give your answer, 3-minute time, right? If there's extra room at the end, I do want to encourage you, if there's extra room at the end, basically at the end in the breakout room, you can share on like deeper or share on other things, or call, you know, if people want to share, whatever, that's fine. But everybody's got to go through the shares, the 3-minute shares, and we do give you 30 minutes. So if you have other shares, you can do that at the end of the breakout room when everybody has already shared on their question and said their question, right? So leaders feel comfortable with that. And then once again, yeah, always make sure that you read the question for your type, and then share on that. And then you'll come back to the main room. What I ask you to do as we move forward is notice when you see yourself using accessible traits of the other types, right? Notice that you're starting to learn about what the other types kind of are like and what you're like, and then take a look at the diagram and see, of course, the wings are next to you on the circle, right? The wings are next to you on the circle. So when you see yourself using those accessible traits, just kind of make a note of it in your mind. Okay, hold on a second, I got this. My computer keeps talking to me or something. Okay, anyway, so, and the same thing on the arrows, when you notice yourself going to the arrows, and sometimes you will notice that you've incorporated now the bad traits of the arrow, right? It's like, where did this come from? That's not even part of my personality, but that will happen as well. So the key to all of that is to be gentle with yourself, for sure. Okay. Now this week, get your pen and paper out. You are going to answer step 3, question 1. Okay. So jot it down. You are going to answer step 3, question 1. And that's what we're going to share on next week. So generally in the given month, right, there'll be some question of that type, but always there's kind of a little bit of an overlap, because rather than spontaneous, and I think you'll find this to be true, rather than spontaneous sharing, we really would love for you to take the time to journal, because things will come out in journaling. And then once you've journaled, then take the time to share as well. Okay, let's see. I think that's it. So as far as what I'm going to cover, I'm going to
Thanks for recovering with us.